We would invite all who would like to join us standing in a presentation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
It is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb. Here. Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Gates. Here. Mr. Martin. Here. Mr. Walker. Here.
Full house on a very beautiful fall evening. I'm now entertained with dispensing of the reading of the journal from September the 18th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from September 18, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Mr. Walker. Yay.
That motion passes. And now come to the time for public comment. If anyone has any public comment to make to council, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you can make your comment to council.
Thank you. Jonathan J.C. Elgin, 19 Seneca Drive here in Shelby. I was getting nervous speaking to council. You know, I was in front of a federal judge once who screamed at me for filing what he thought was a frivolous motion. And I'll take that again, because there's one eye versus 7 or 8 of you staring at me. But I've been to a lot of your meetings when the court audits and management issues have been discussed, and I've reserved comment. I've not made comment on any of those. But with the release of the most recent audit, it really, I wanted to think about what I could add to the conversation. You guys spent hours discussing it. But as a former assistant prosecutor assigned to the civil division, I represented 18 townships and various county entities through the audit process, dealing with all sorts of audit findings, including findings that led to criminal prosecution of fiscal clerks. So I've been down these roads before, and I try to tell my clients when they had audit findings, an audit finding is not the end of the world. An audit finding is simply a correction. It's a paternal instruction from the auditor saying, this is what you need to change to do things the correct way. A repeat audit finding and a non-corrected audit finding, however, is an error of a new magnitude. Because at that point, the auditor has told you what to do, and you've not done it. And as you are well aware, our most recent audit now has the 5th non-corrected 6th audit finding against our court for the reconciliation practices that have taken place. You know, the May 1st judge's memo to this council placed that blame squarely on the previous court, Judge Schaefer's court, may he rest in peace. I find that to be disingenuous at best, if not an outright lie, because when you read those audit findings, the 2021 audit states in there that the monthly reconciliations were not completed. That has nothing to do with Judge Schaefer's court. That is dereliction. That is an individual who didn't do their job and was carded on it. The 2022 audit continues and states that the monthly reconciliations were not prepared and reviewed accurately. Again, not a historical issue. You all were aware of all the corrections and everything the court has tried to implement, but this idea that this is something from the past in Judge Schaefer's court is just, it doesn't hold water. In the 2021 audit, the unreconciled balances were $4,700 and $782 in the other account. in that May memo, the balances were $3,600 and $3,700, more or less. The audit that we just had released first showed an unreconciled balance of $11,400 and $1,600 in the other. However, as the audit indicated, the court did find some errors and make some corrections, $17,000 worth of errors and corrections. But even after those errors and corrections, we've arrived at a new set of numbers that were $3,500 and $3,800. Just between the May memo and this audit finding, the numbers have changed. Historical errors don't change. If this was a mathematical error from 7 years ago, the discrepancies would be consistent. These are ongoing issues, and we all understand why. The clerk cannot do the position that she is paid handsomely to do. And so, what I wanted to offer today is that should the voters choose to entrust me with this position this fall, first, I will make an appointment of a new clerk of courts. That is a priority of mine. And second, I've been to all these council meetings, and the consistent and conspicuous absence of the court has really disturbed me. If you're discussing something as important as reducing the salary of my court administrator to $1 a year, I want to be at the table. So I'm not saying that the council and I are always going to see eye to eye, but what I want to assure you is that if I am elected, I want to be at the table. And I want to participate in those discussions. I don't want to communicate through a memo to you, to communicate and find out what council did last night. I want to be here. I want to resolve those problems together. So I know you're going to have a lot more to say about it. I'm going to leave it at that. But I just wanted to offer that perspective and some assurances how my administration would be different should the electors choose to put me in that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment on the topic of public comment? Here we are seeing none. We'll move forward to reports from standing and special committees, Community and Economic Development Committee. Councilman McLaughlin.
Mayor, I just want to let the council know that Jessica Gribbin, Shelby's Economic Development Manager, she plans to come to the next council meeting on the 16th at 7 o'clock to give us an encouraging update on what's going on with her position. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. McLaughlin in his report? Yes, Mr. Mark.
That's what we call the business of tease. So I look forward to it.
Okay, that's right. It is a genius. Thank you. Public Works and General Operations Committee did not meet.
That's correct.
Correct. We have that on the agenda that way. And the Parking Committee did not meet as well.
Those are correct.
Okay. That moves us to the reports of city officials. And knowing we have a rather full agenda, I'll not bring the full report this evening. I do have a proclamation to deliver, as well as several motions for confirmation for council to consider this evening. This is Stormwater Week. The Stormwater Week resolution is coming here from Resolution Proclamation. It reads thusly: whereas urban stormwater runoff impacts water quality in the Black Fork watershed in the city of Shelby, Gresham County, Ohio, and whereas population growth, residential and commercial development, and the resulting changes to the landscape will only increase stormwater quality and quantity concerns throughout Ohio, and whereas these impacts cannot be entirely avoided or eliminated, but can be minimized, and whereas it is currently recognized that control of stormwater quantity and quality is most effectively implemented when people and organizations understand the related causes and consequences of polluted stormwater runoff and flooding, and the actions they can take to control these. And whereas the need arises not only from the regulatory requirements of EPA general construction and municipal stormwater rules, but also from the recognition that citizens and local decision makers will benefit from a greater awareness of how the cumulative impacts of decisions at home, at work, and through local policies impact our water quality, stream corridors, and flooding. And whereas the development and implementation of effective outcome-based stormwater education and outreach programs will meet the related federal stormwater pollution control requirements and those of the communities they serve, so that Ohio continues to be a great place to live, work, and play. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Stephen L. Shea, Mayor of the City of Shelby, Ohio, encourage the citizens of Shelby to join the Richland Soil and Water Conservation District and communities all across Ohio in recognizing Stormwater Awareness Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Shelby, Ohio, to be affixed the 2nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2023. Mr. Dan Herod came to the office and received a copy of this proclamation and shared some good thoughts from Soil and Water, and with the development we have going on Main Street that will be moving before too long. Remind me again of the importance of when you talk about detention areas and runoff, that it is very key to have those things set in the plans so that we can prepare rather than try to repair. So stormwater management is truly the key component in the City of Shelby. So we join Soil and Water in their efforts to bring awareness and education. I would appreciate entertaining motions for confirmation, however council would decide to handle these appointments, whether singularly or in some ways joining some together. Mr. Mark.
I move to confirm the following appointments: Jennifer Frazier to the Community Improvement Corporation, Mary Ann Hopp to the Shade Tree Commission, Carol McLaughlin to the Shade Tree Commission, Eric Cutlip to the Shade Tree Commission, David Downs to the Board of Park Commissioners. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Gates to confirm the names and commissions and committees and corporations so read. Everyone clear on that motion for those confirmations? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I'll abstain.
Okay, so the motion passes for those confirmations made by Mr. Martin. Thank you.
Move to request a liquor hearing for Parmore Oil Company doing business as Parmore Store number 230 at 47.5 Mansfield Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robb and a second by Mr. Roberts to request a liquor hearing for Parmore Oil Company doing business as Parmore Store 240 at 147 Mansfield Avenue. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, for the record, there are 3 licenses that permits that they wish to transfer. C1, which is for beer only, carry out. C2 for wine and prepackaged low-proof mixed beverages. And the D6 license is for Sunday sales. I had done some research looking into what was happening there. Parmar Oil Company is headquartered in Marietta. The PAR is for Parkersburg, the MAR is for Marietta, the original partners. One was in each city, so that's where the name came from. And I was surprised to find out that this company has hundreds of gas stations and convenience stores. Southeastern Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, I think a few in Kentucky. So it's a very large operation.
Thank you for that information. That's helpful. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb?
Nay.
Mr. Roberts?
Nay.
Mr. Gates?
Nay.
Mr. Martin?
Nay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Nay.
That motion fails. Thank you. Hearing no business under that category, we'll move forward to Mr. Crum, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. I guess the biggest news under my umbrella is Mrs. Lisa Jordan did retire on Friday. Special thank you to her for all of her 31 years of service to the city of Shelby. We wish her very well in retirement. So we're down to 2 now in the income tax department, which is, I'm very, very happy with that. Both Liz and Matt are very capable. I'm really looking forward to the future working with them. In other income tax news, as far as September collections, we're pretty close to where we need to be. I want to say it was maybe 342,000 in collections last month, which I'm hoping for 350,000 a month. So we're right in there. We'll see how the last quarter goes. I'm also, Finance Committee meeting will be, I want to discuss some transfers of line items, because as we're getting close to the end of the year, I'm looking at numbers, and some of them are going to be close. I think the toughest one will probably be the fire wages, because, well, obviously bringing the EMS services on, because they've been busy, and there's been a lot of overtime this year, so they're definitely going to be above what we appropriated, and so we'll have to figure something out. But we'll work at the Finance Committee with that, bring something to council next meeting. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Appreciate that. Any comments or questions for Mr. Crum? Mr. Gates?
Just a comment, the Finance Committee will meet on Friday the 13th. One should not read anything into that. Or perhaps one should.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crum. Mr. Ister, Law Director.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
And Mr. Geis is on this evening. He is out of town. We move then to new business. We have 3 items on the agenda under new business. First is the AMP conference. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I attended the AMP conference last week, last Tuesday and Wednesday. There were 350 people registered for this, so certainly the conference has bounced back from the COVID epidemic pandemic when we couldn't meet in person, but large gathering, interesting, positive, fact-filled presentations. I'm going to reserve those until the next meeting, but I do have something else to add because the city of Shelby was honored at the meeting. The city of Shelby has received a Transmission Distribution Safety Award for 2023. So I have safely brought it back from Columbus and wish to present this to Mr. Ensman at this time. So, you know, safety is job one, you know, so.
Are there any other recognitions?
That's the award that the city got, yes.
Okay, thank you. Move forward then to the 2022 audit.
Mayor, as short as the AMP conference report was, this will be much longer. Let me start out to say that it's long been the practice of the city that after the audit is released, that we discuss it at city council. And we do that in order to show to the citizens of this community that we are accountable and that we are transparent. That's the only reason why we do this, for no other reason. Let me start out by saying that the first thing that when one gets an audit that one should look for is to see if there are any findings for recovery. And this is where the state auditors have found that monies were either stolen or they were spent illegally. And I can assure you that, and everyone else, that the auditors found no evidence either of theft or of money spent illegally. So, that's the good news. But in an audit, you're always going to get other things that they find. So that's what we're going to do. What I'd like my colleagues to do is find the copy of the management letter. That's what we want to look at first. 6 pages. I'm going to go through and highlight items here. I'm not going to read everything, but there's some boilerplate cover language on page 1. On page 2, we have some non-compliance findings. And these are minor, but they are important. Item number 1, public records policy acknowledgement. We had this last year in the 2021 audit, and the records custodians or record managers at each location of the city were given a copy of the public records policy, and they were to sign that they had received that. There was one of those managers who had not signed. I understand that he has signed it, so we can cross this one off the list. Item number 2, schedule of expenditures for federal awards. We've had some highway projects that were funded with federal dollars, and of course ARPA monies or federal monies. And so there are certain procedures that that Uncle wants us to follow. And there is a list of this schedule here. I'm looking at the last paragraph where it says city management should implement a system to review the schedule for errors and omissions. Mayor, this becomes your duty to do as the chief executive officer of the city and as the contractual officer for the city. So that is assigned to you. Next page, page 3 at the top, we have federal policies, and again there are 5 federal policies listed there. It says as of December 31st, 2022, the city did not formally adopt the federal written policies for 2 CFR, that's the Code of Federal Regulations, 200 listed above. So Mayor, I'm going to again assign that to you, to follow up on and bring back to council whatever action the council may need to do. Recommendations. This is a section where it's just things that auditors note, and it's more than a suggestion, it's a recommendation. So they need to be taken in high regard. The first item, number 1, is IT, logical access. And I'll share with you as my teaser that one of the big sessions at the AMP conference was on cybersecurity, and so this ties right in with some of the things there. I'm looking down at the first bullet. Well, it's under the section of City Hall Active Directory, network level, the first bullet point. Multi-factor authentication policies have not been enabled. Mayor and everyone else here, I cannot emphasize this enough. One thing we were told at the AMP conference regarding cybersecurity and cyber attack, it's not a question of if we will be attacked, it's a question of when we'll be attacked. Today I accessed a bank account to get my monthly statement. And it's a Vista Bank, it's not a surprise, but it has multi-factor authentication, all right? I have my email address, a password, I hit enter, go, or whatever it is, and it comes back and says, we're going to send you a 6-digit security code. How do you want it? So I told them how I wanted it, and then I entered it in, and then I could get access. Amtrak. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I made reservations for a trip. The same thing. Email address, password, enter, okay, here's a 6-digit code. Again, this multi-factor is the protection that we need. It's coming, we're already doing it. I understand that Stacy, for all the things, Mrs. Gunder, I should say, in dealing with Department of Health and birth and death certificates, she jumps through multiple hoops to access that website. We need to implement those. Down the next section is the municipal court, the application level, number of bullets there. Passwords were not changed with the established password expiration policy for 8 individual user accounts, 1 shared account, 1 vendor account, and 1 high-level account. No lockout policy is in place to prevent unauthorized users from attempting logon attempts. You know, it's 3 strikes and you're out. If you try 3 times, you get locked out. Again, that's a security, that's an important security measure. Utility billing. Again, we see a bullet here. The city should implement and perform the following logical access controls. Implement multi-factor authentication at the network level to help ensure data is protected and accessed only by authorized individuals. Then again, as mentioned in the court, in addition, the municipal court should enforce periodic password change procedures and create lockout policies for all case management application users. For me to access my city email account, every now and then a message pops up and says, I have, so many days in which to change my password. And one time I didn't do that, and it was a pain in the keister to get access again. So, multi-factor authentication and periodic changing of passwords. Item 2, IT, antivirus software, the second bullet point. The utility billing and municipal courts case management system servers do not have antivirus installed on them. I can't believe that in this day and age that we don't have antivirus there. Item 3, on page 5, financial reporting. It discusses some things they found, and let me point out, the entire city audit, which is well over 100 pages, is available online. So it contains lots and lots of tables and graphs, which are important for financial people. And they are important, but more detailed than what Joe or Jane citizen needs. Certainly more information than what I need. But they found a discrepancy, and it said the following differences were immaterial and did not require adjustment to the financial statements. I understand, and the finance director can correct me, this has to do with the GAAP conversion, and he's nodding his head. Number 4, budgeted receipts posted to accounting system. We can't spend willy-nilly here. First of all, because we don't have this much money to spend willy-nilly. But there is a financial constraint, not only upon the city, but on all governmental units in Richland County, is that we have to present to the budget, the County Budget Commission, what our estimate is of revenue. We do that as part of the budget plan, which we just finished. We'll do that in January to include the carryover, and as we get additional significant revenue, the finance director will go and get an amended certificate of estimated resources. And that's kind of auditing 101. They look to see how much did the County Budget Commission say you were going to have to spend, and how much did you spend. And if you spend more than what the Budget Commission certified, you get a whack for that. And that's an important whack, because that's part of the controls. Right? So this has to deal with a discrepancy in the general fund and street fund, and I have no doubt that the finance director has already looked into this and will take care of this. But anyways, item 4, I'm assigning to the finance director to take care of. Mayor, that's the management letter. So what we want to look at now are some excerpts from the actual audit itself. And again, this is the audit for calendar year 2022. So, sure.
On the management letter, I just wanted to, on the IT stuff, we have hired an IT firm that's going to be starting here pretty quick. And so a lot of those issues will be addressed by that. I think on our part, a very smart hire to actually have a dedicated IT, which we haven't historically had in the city. So that is something that will be effectively taken care of with those. sorry to interject, but I just.
I appreciate that. So Mayor, I have no doubt that these IT findings, recommendations, I have no doubt you will share those in their entirety with our IT consultant and let him or her, in case we get to work on this.
Yes.
Again, looking at some pages from the actual audit itself, there's the cover page, page 1, page 2, page 3 are the letter actually signed by the Auditor of State. I have no doubt a lot of that is boilerplate, but it's the audit comes from the state auditor. I'm looking at what's numbered page 107 at the bottom. This is a summary of auditors' results. There are a number of items in which the correct answer was no. The best answer is no. But I'm looking at the one that says, were there any significant deficiencies in internal controls reported at the financial statement level? The answer is yes. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. Actually, we'll take a look at it now. It's on page 108. Findings related to the financial statements required to be reported in accordance with GAGAS, and I know the finance director after council will be glad to tell us what GAGAS means. This is finding number 2022-001. Municipal Court Monthly Bank Reconciliations Significant Deficiency. Sound accounting practices require that when designing the public office's system of internal control and the specific control activities, management should ensure adequate security of assets and records and verify the existence and valuation of assets and liabilities and periodically reconcile them to the accounting records. The reconciliation of cash, and in parentheses the word bank, balances to accounting system records, or the book, is the most basic and primary control process performed. Lack of completing an accurate and timely reconciliation may allow for accounting errors, theft, and fraud to occur without timely detection. The municipal court maintains 2 bank accounts separate from the city's treasury through which the collection and disbursement of all monies for the municipal court are made. The clerk of courts is responsible for reconciling the municipal court accounting ledgers to bank balances on a monthly basis, and management of the city is responsible for reviewing the reconciliations and related support. Monthly bank-to-book reconciliations for the municipal court criminal and civil bank accounts were not accurately prepared or reviewed for each month of 2022. The December 2022 reconciliations reflect unreconciled balances of negative $11,493 and negative $1,669 in the criminal and civil bank accounts, respectively. As of the date of this report, the Clerk of Courts has identified various records impacting the December 2022 reconciliations totaling $15,034 and negative $2,117 in the criminal and civil bank accounts, respectively. Therefore, the net unreconciled balance in the criminal and civil bank accounts are $3,541 and negative $3,813, respectively. Failure to accurately reconcile monthly statements increases the possibility that the city will not be able to identify, assemble, analyze, classify, and record its transactions correctly, or to document compliance with finance-related legal and contractual requirements. Further, the lack of accurate monthly reconciliations increases the risk of theft/fraud over the cash cycle and could lead to inaccurate reporting in the annual financial statements. The municipal court should record all transactions and prepare monthly bank-to-book cash reconciliations, which include all bank accounts and all fund balances. Variances should be investigated, documented, and corrected timely. In addition, management should review the monthly cash reconciliations including the related support such as reconciling items and document reviews. Next section of that is officials' response. C, the corrective action plan. Item 3, findings for federal awards. There are none. On page 109, the title is Summary Schedule of Prior Audit Findings, 2 CFR 200.511, paragraph B, December 31st, 2022. Finding number 2021-001. The finding summary, municipal court monthly bank reconciliations, significant deficiency. There's a parenthetical. Finding first occurred in fiscal year 2017. Status not corrected. Additional information. Finding is being repeated in the current audit as finding 2022-001. Monthly municipal court bank reconciliations were not accurately completed during 2022. See the corrective action plan. So what we have here is, again, the finding that we had from the 2021 audit, the significant deficiency has been repeated. It has not been corrected. The last page in our packet, page 111, the corrective action plan, finding number 2022-001, planned corrective action. Identified errors corrected with programmer. All documented variances have been provided to Henshin. Henshin is the software provider for the court. Have been provided to Henshin to update in an effort to avoid creating additional program discrepancies. Going forward, we are correcting documented variances at the time of completion of each monthly reconciliation. All monthly reconciliations are being reviewed by management and the finance department. Anticipated completion date, September 30th, 2023. Responsible contact person, Shannon Small. She is the clerk of courts. Mayor, I had hoped that by the time of my departure from City Council that this matter might be resolved. I have no hope that that will happen. In January, when we discussed the 2021 audit, I expressed my belief that this matter would only be corrected with the replacement of the clerk of courts. And sadly, I must repeat that same belief. That until there is a new person in this position, we are going to continue with this problem. As it was mentioned, this problem first occurred in 17. So audits, calendar year 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. 6 years worth. Mayor, that's my report on the city audit.
Councilman Gates? Any further comments on the audit report? Mr. Mark?
I'm not going to belabor the point. I've made my statements on this very clear multiple times. Frankly, it's tiring. But we do have a very important election coming up in November. And I certainly hope that everyone takes into account of what they've heard and what they continue to hear about this going forward. This is not difficult. It is not as if they are dealing with thousands of transactions each month. I would venture to say that the amount of transactions that they experience each month is significantly less than each one of us has in our own personal bank accounts on a monthly basis. These are two relatively small accounts. We can't even register correctly which funds should go into which accounts. And there are only 2 of them. 2 accounts. I am a commander of local VFW, and we have 4 accounts that we reconcile on a regular basis. These are just 2 accounts that are not high volume accounts. And yet we can't not get it right. I'm very fond of a sentiment, you aim small, you miss small. In other words, if you focus on the blocking and tackling, if you focus on doing the little things right, the bigger things take care of themselves. But when you can't do the little things right, when you cannot muster up the ability to do the little things right, that is what destroys companies, that's what destroys cultures, that's what destroys cities, because the little things aren't taken care of. And that is what we're talking about here. It's beyond ridiculous to the point of parody, the fact that it's still going on. And I certainly hope that changes will be made sooner than later.
Thank you. Any further comments on the 2022 audit? All right, move forward then to, on the agenda, downtown school property. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I'd asked this to be put on the agenda, but I've spoken enough tonight. I've got comments about legislation that are more important than this. I would ask that the clerk continue this under as unfinished business at the next meeting, as well as the M conference.
Very good. So noted, Mr. Crum.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other new business that you brought before council this evening? Moving to unfinished business. Any unfinished business that you brought before council? And then let's move into legislation.
Ordinance number 24, 2023, enacting section 204.06, official tree of chapter 204, official standards of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move for third reading. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the third reading of ordinance number 24, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Yay. Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McGough? Yay.
Ordinance number 24, 2023 passes its third reading.
Move the ordinance to be taken up and passed. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of ordinance number 24, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Roberts.
I talked to a member of the Shade Tree Committee today, and should this ordinance pass tonight, they hope to plant a sugar maple tree sometime next week. Kind of been in the talks about trying to dedicate this particular tree as the tree that this ordinance is talking about, and so I hope that can happen. Again, like I said, I think the tree has been bought, and it should be planted sometime next week. And hopefully we get more information so that I can pass it out, so we can have some kind of ceremony when that tree is put in the ground.
Sounds good. Very nice. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McGough? Yay.
Ordinance number 24, 2023 passes.
Ordinance number 25, 2023, amending section 1064.02, types of watercraft permitted on Shelby City Reservoir number 3, hours, section 1064.03, voting rules for Shelby City Reservoir number 3, section 1064.04, posting rules, section 1064.10, personal offenses, and section 1064.13, fishing regulations, and enacting section 1064.17, types of watercraft permitted on Shelby City Reservoir number 2, hours, and section 1064.18, voting rules for the Shelby City Reservoir number 2, in Chapter 1064, City Reservoirs, codified ordinances of the City of Shelby, Ohio.
Move first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the first reading of ordinance number 25, 2023. Discussion. Mr. Roberts.
I would like to move to amend in these ways. If you look at the first, let's see, what are we at? Down below where it says 1064 types of watercraft permitted on Shelby City Reservoirs, number 3, hours. If you look at the first, right after the first sentence, where it says rowboats, canoes, paddles, etc., watercraft powered by electric motors permitted on Shelby Reservoir, number 3, period, or number 3. And that says, I want to strike between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily. So right behind reservoir number 3, I want to put the period, and then strike the next line to the period. And then at the bottom, at the end of that paragraph, I want to put no restricted hours, period. If that makes sense. So behind onboard gasoline engines, keep the period, but then no restricted hours after that. I would like to also do the same thing with, it talks about it on reservoir number 2, 1064.17, type of watercraft permitted on Shelby Reservoir number 2, hours. The exact same thing. Right behind where it says Shelby Reservoir number 2, I would like to put a period, and then between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily, be stricken, and at the end of, right behind gasoline engines, period, put no restricted hours, period. And then, on the next page, in G, it's kind of tails onto that. All watercraft must be removed from the reservoir by 10 p.m. each day. I want to strike that, and I want to change the respective numbers, or I'm sorry, the respective letters. So we will strike G, but then we will make, we will change the letters to reflect. And then, I got some things from Ensman, and I passed out. Everything in the blue is the changes. Everything that is in yellow has been, we need to change. So in E, if you look at the second page, E, the spacing is too much. So we need to tighten that up between E and F. And spacing the same on J, where it says disorderly conduct, violations of any terms, conditions, or prohibitions of 648 governing disorderly conduct. That spacing needs to tighten up also. And where are we at? D, on the very next page, D, there's a double period after the numbers 1064.03, 1064.17, or 1064.18. There's a double period, and that should all have one period. And that, if I'm correct, are the motion I'd like to make. Change that.
Just a point of clarification. So there's also hours on there are other hours listed here someplace. I thought I marked it. Oh, I'm sorry, it's on this, am I thinking right, 1064.03 G, or is that already been addressed?
Address that.
That is 1064, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Res 3.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
I
res
didn't
3.
On the same on reservoir number 3, I would like to, G, where it says all watercraft must be removed from the reservoir by 10 p.m. each day, I want to remove that, and then also change the respective numbers or letters in that also. So mirror, they mirror each other.
Correct. So that'd be 1060. 1064.02 G. Okay.
106403.
Pardon?
106403, G, not 02. There is.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes. We have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to amend by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin. I think we coursed through these 106403 G to be stricken, and then, of course, the H would become the G. And then on 1064.17, to after the words Shelby Reservoir number 2, the second line, to place a period there and strike between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily, period, that all to be stricken. And then to add after the word, in that same paragraph, add the words no restricted hours, period. And then on 1064.18, on the letter G to be stricken there on the very last page, stricken entirely, and then to replace H with G in parentheses. Did I catch those, Mr. Roberts? Okay, so those are the amendments that are on the table. Discussion. I think Mr. Roberts, I think you had a hand up, please. Oh, Mr. Gates.
At present, the hours are between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. What I would like is someone to explain why we do have restricted hours, and then have someone explain why we should not have restricted hours.
Mr. Roberts.
In my research, there's no reason that we have restricted hours right now. It's just something that we've done. No one can say this is why that's happened. And I have called, personally talked to people from New London, Clear Fork, Gallion, Cyrus, and Willard. And the only reservoir, and actually Willard, or Gallion has 3 reservoirs, and that is the only city that has restrictions. Everybody else is unrestricted. Cyrus has a restriction if there is a red flag warning, and no one can explain what a red flag warning is. So of all the other reservoirs around us, except for Gallion, there are no restrictions. And that is my, and I, quite honestly, probably being the only person, maybe in this room, that's ever been on that reservoir on a boat for recreation, the restrictions, and there's no scientific research that I can find that says that catfish bite better in the middle of the night. But if you talk to everybody that goes up there fishing, catfish bite better in the middle of the night. So that's the reason for to try to get the restrictions off of there.
Mr. Martin.
And just to dovetail on that, I mean, we had talked about this, like, if the reasoning were, we don't want people on there after dark, well, 10 p.m. is well after dark for a majority of the year. It really is arbitrary. It doesn't make sense, even if someone were to say, even throughout, and nobody really has, but, even to throw out, oh, safety, we don't want people after, well, then why is it 10 p.m.? It really doesn't make sense, and I'm glad that we're taking care of it.
Mr. Roberts.
And talk about safety, I've talked to both chiefs, and I've talked to Mr. Ensman, and none of them have an issue with these changes.
Mr. Gates.
Mayor, that helps. Not to be not to put on my Miss Arrington hat, but the sentence is added, no restricted hours twice. That's a sentence fragment. It has no meaning.
We could, no restricted hours really doesn't have to be there if we just take the restricted hours out. I only put that in there just for clarification, so when somebody looks at this, if the police get called up there and say, hey, there's somebody on there with a boat at 3 in the morning, that's the only reason I put no restricted hours in there, is so that somebody could look that up and say, hey, you know, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there to say that there are no restricted hours. The only reason that I put that in there is so that somebody could look at that and say, hey, there's no hours, we don't restrict any hours. So if there's a other way to put that, I would be happy to hear it.
Mr. Martin?
Well, if we took that out, we didn't reference any hours at all, and in the, we'll call it the title case up there where it says, you know, watercraft permitted on Shelby City Reservoir number 3, semicolon hours. If we just took out that semicolon hours and just made it what is permitted to be on there, then there would just be no restricted hours, correct? So I will likely make that as a unanimous consent if we consider this. So, to save us from having to amend the amendment.
That is by unanimous consent, you want to remove?
Nope, not doing it right now.
Oh, okay. Mr. Gates, did you have another idea?
Well,
Yes.
you know, if we take the hours out, you know, if we remove the restriction, we don't need to say there's no restriction. We could say, you know, there shall be no restricted hours, but, you know, we've already taken care of that by removing the hours. Here's a case where less is better. I don't have a problem.
Oh, I see, yes, like in 106402, if you just remove the word hour out of the semicolon and hours, correct? Is that what you're all looking at?
No,
Which one do you?
Mayor, I'm looking where Mr. Roberts has
Yes,
made an
yes.
amendment. At the end of that paragraph, it would say, no restricted hours, period.
Right. But that's what he's. That's 1064.02?
Yes, and also whatever the other one is.
And there shall be no restricted hours? Mr. Martin?
Mayor, I feel if we vote on this amendment, we do all these changes, we can clean that bit up with a unanimous consent, I feel. I think we can. I'm prepared to vote on the amendment,
Okay. As stated.
as stated.
All right, any further discussion? We will take a roll call vote on the amendment as stated by Mr. Roberts. We're all clear on the amendment? Let's be proposed. Multifaceted amendment as it is. All right, roll call please.
Mr. Robb?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates?
Yeah.
Mr. Martin?
Yay?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Okay.
Motion to amend passes. Mr. Martin?
I would like to, by unanimous consent, in 106402, the semicolon hours, remove that, and to likewise do that in 1064.17, to remove the semicolon in hours, and then to also strike what we just added, no restricted hours, in both of those paragraphs respectively.
All right, it's been asked by unanimous consent, in 1064.02, to remove the semicolon and the hours at the end of that phrase, and then also remove no restricted hours, period. And then on 1064.17, to remove the semicolon and the word hours, and then also to remove the phrase no restricted hours, period. That is my understanding of your unanimous consent. Are there any objections to those changes, those amendments? All right, they shall be so made. All right, any further discussion on the first reading?
You want to move the title too?
that's amending it as is, so we can't, you know.
But you're enacting the second one, so you might want to take it out of the enacting provision of 1064-17.
Yes, and acting, I got you.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
By unanimous consent in the enacting part of the title, to also take out the semicolon hours in both 1064.17, 1064.02 respectively.
Very good, that's about line 6, is that what you're looking at here. By unanimous consent, it has been asked to remove the semicolon after and the word hours, and of course we put that parenthesis at the end of reservoir 2, after the word 2, the letter 2, the number 2. It's getting too late. Yes, Charlie?
You can find that same language in the second line after reservoir number 3.
That stays because we're amending the ordinance that already has the word hours in it. We're deleting it down below, so it'll amend by substitution once passed.
That will stay. So back to the,
We got it.
Yes.
By unanimous consent, we'll remove the word hours in the 6th line, and semicolon and hours in the 6th line, and remove the parentheses accordingly. Everyone understand? Are there any objections? Hearing or seeing none, that change will also be made. All righty. Any other discussion on the first reading of ordinance number 25, 2023? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, do I understand that the red flag warning language is gone if this is passed?
I believe so. Mr. Henson is here.
Yes, that language has been removed.
Mr. Gates.
Mayor, looking at section 1064.03, paragraph A, all watercraft shall be registered with the state of Ohio and a decal, so and so. Who will enforce this? Who will be the reservoir cop who goes out and looks at boats at all hours of the day or night to make sure that they are displaying this decal?
I don't know if there's an answer at the table, but this being the first reading, if everyone will be so kind as to pass the first reading, we can get that answer and see what these other communities are doing, and who does that enforcement. Is that acceptable? I really don't know right now, Mr. Gates.
Well, that's fine. Okay, that's a legitimate answer. Okay,
Right.
I have other questions, so I'm not going to commit my vote until I get my
Oh,
answers.
all
All right.
We'll find out.
So, that's my concern. Let's say that we have someone who comes here from, I don't know, Upper Sandusky. Here's that Res 3 is a great place, okay? And they show up on Saturday morning. Lo and behold, oh my gosh, I've driven an hour from Upper Sandusky, but I don't have a decal. Sorry, Billy Bob, we have to go home. That's not going to happen. But a bigger issue with this is that in the state of Ohio, and it's the doctrine of preemption. And what it is, if one level of government does something, they more or less exclusively do that. For example, we no longer license contractors in the city. Why? Because the state of Ohio licenses contractors. Now, we register them for city income tax, but that's for a different purpose altogether. I believe the state of Ohio registers watercraft. I'm not sure that we can register watercraft because the state of Ohio does so. So, and
There's
that's,
homework to do.
that's right, and that's, of course, that language is repeated twice, one for Res 2 and one for Res 3.
Mr. Roberts?
The only place, and I didn't ask that very question to the people that I talked to, but I know from experience on the Willow Reservoir, they ask you to get a sticker for your boat before you go on the water. Now, how that's enforced, I have no idea. I know that we've been in, and seems to be a lifetime sticker. You buy it once and it's on there. Like I said, I don't know. The only way I can think that it would be enforced is if you pull your boat from the water and there's a police officer there, or you do something wrong and there's a police officer there, they say, look, you don't have a sticker. Now, what happens at that point, I do not know. I assume they say, you better get down and get a sticker. I don't think they impound your boat, your fishing gear and all that, and I don't know if they could. I know that happens at Willard. I didn't ask anybody else. I haven't had experience with those other entities. So I can't answer the question, but I know that it happens other places.
Mr. Gates?
So, Mr. Roberts kind of gave me a lead-in to my question. What is the penalty if someone doesn't get the sticker? Okay.
Those are legitimate questions. Any further discussion? For the first reading of ordinance number 25, 2023. Pages printed, please. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Mr. Gates?
Nay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Ordinance number 25, 2023 passes its first reading. Miscellaneous business. Any miscellaneous business that we brought before council this evening? Mr. Gates?
Mayor, move council adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
That motion passes. Council adjourns at 8:06. Thank you.